people walk into a room and it's like throwing a fresh chili in that room. It lights it up. It's like there's energy, there's heat. And other people walk into a room and they're like soggy lettuce, you know, kind of deal. And today we're talking about coming Soul Sriracha, and yes, that is how you spell sriracha. Today is about Soul Sriracha, about becoming the type of person that brings the heat into our atmosphere, into our environments, into our spaces where we meet. We've all met people that are too enthusiastic, like they bounce into a room at like 7 a.m. in the morning into your workplace and go, hey, you know, that kind of thing, and you're like, chill, Susan, you know, like, just waking up. You're way too happy right now. And then there's the opposite. People who look like they've been soaking in lemon juice, right, since 1989. Like they're pickling away at something, stewing in something that's made them look all like that kind of thing. And they're in the White Star line up at Cardi's, and you're like, bro, it's like someone's died, you know, it's not that bad, it's just a queue, that kind of thing. And here's what I've noticed: both enthusiasm and negativity are contagious. If someone brings good energy, then that entire room will light up. I've watched great leaders walk into a room, and I've seen people, and they didn't even know that leader had walked into the room, and they looked around because you can feel the energy of the room change when positivity comes in the room. And have you ever noticed how like a little chili, you can't really see it, but it can change a whole meal, right? You know, you put too much in and it's not so good. It's the same with us. The right spirit can turn a dull room into something alive, and that, my friends, is Soul Sriracha. But if someone brings bad energy into a room, well, the inference is the room can sink. So the question tonight is, are we going to be the person that changes the room for the better, or are we going to be the person that gets changed by the mood of any particular room? Enthusiasm, next slide. Enthusiasm is way more than a mood. I said there's two types of people: those who let their environment set their mood. Like, oh, the traffic was bad and the boss just yelled at me, and so now I hate my life. Life sucks, you know, I want to die, you know. And then those who bring their mood into their environment and change it. They're like, yeah, the traffic was bad, but at least I'm alive and I didn't die in a car accident, and I can play the Pixies right now, and I'm going to stop and get a mince pie and be in my traffic, and you know, and so you change the environment that you're in. Like this week I've been sick. On Monday I woke up sick, and I hate being sick. Who hates being sick? I mean, you just can't get anything done. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in bed, I'm going to be sick, and I make the most of it. And so I sent my wonderful wife, Jazz, to go get heaps of treats, and I got like chocolate, and I got like lollies, and I got Coke, and I got a big bag of Cheerios because I'm a sucker for sausages. And like, I just watched Netflix like all day, and it was so good, and I was so happy. But Jazz wasn't so happy because she had to look after me. But anyway, at least I was happy. And here's something you might not know: the word enthusiasm actually comes from a Greek word, theos. En means in, and theos means God. So enthusiasm literally means in God. So if you are truly enthusiastic, it's not just that you've done some tequila shots. It's Soul Sriracha, baby. You know, like you've got God's heart beating on the inside of you. You've got like a chili on the inside of you. God's heat warming up the planet. Check out this verse, Colossians 3:23. He says, do your best. Work from the heart for your real master, for God. So whatever you're doing, you know, you're working away at typing, mowing the lawns, you know, changing poopy nappies, whatever you do, you know, the repetitive, boring as hell task that you're doing at work, do it for the Lord. Do it with an enthusiasm from the heart. Listen to how he says it in this one, in 1 Corinthians. Don't hold back. Throw yourself into the work of the master, confident that nothing, everyone say nothing?
Nothing.
Thanks, David. That nothing you do for him is a waste of time or effort. Did you get that? That's sick. That's like the Bible's way of saying, just go all in, dudes. You know, even when it's feeling dumb and a waste of time, go all in. It's not a waste of time. Oh, but the boss can't see me and I might not get a raise. No, go all in. Oh, but like no one's filming my skate trick. No, go all in anyway, you know? That kind of thing. See, I'm getting back at you too. Nothing you do for him is a waste of time or effort. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you will think nothing good can come of this situation. I'm stuck. And so let's hit the Apostle Paul, because he wrote most of the New Testament, which if you're new to this Christian thing is the last part of the Bible written only a couple of thousand years ago. He wrote most of that, and he spent about 5 or 6 years at various different times in prison. And a lot of the books came out of that. And so let's dive into one of those times with Paul. Is that all right? Are you guys tracking with me? Mm-hmm. Cool. So imagine, let's go back to ancient Rome, the noise of the merchants, the olives getting sold, the wine, the smell of sacrificial meats burning to other gods, and that kind of the glistening armor and the clanging of the Roman guard sort of wandering through the street. Rome, the empire of Rome was unstoppable, and Rome, the city, was obviously at the heart of it, right? And so to be a prisoner in Rome, it wasn't just punishment, it was utter humiliation. And for Paul, it was worse because he was a Roman. And these were like radically racist times. To be Roman was to be almost like a god, and everyone else, like you and me, any Romans in the room? We were like dogs back in the day, you know? We were nothing. And so we find Paul here. And he's not in a temple preaching. He would have loved to have been. He's not on a hillside with crowds, but he's cramped into this rented little house under house arrest. And he's chained wrist to wrist with a soldier, not an ordinary soldier, but from the Praetorian Guard. That's like Caesar's guard. What did I say? Guard. The Praetorian Guard. No, the guard. And that's like the Navy SEALs back in the day. That's like, they were the best of the best. They were hardened, disciplined, deeply loyal soldiers. And every 6 hours, the chains would click off this guard's wrist and clamp onto another one, and the guard would rotate. And so Paul's companions changed constantly, but the chains remained. And this happened for 2 years. So to outsiders, it looked like Paul, this amazing Paul, Apostle Paul, well, it was over for him. His missionary journeys, it must be over, you know, this great traveller, this preacher, this missionary, he's in prison and he's muzzled. But Paul didn't see it that way. I want you to see this. He was in God. He was enthusiastic. He looked up at the soldier that he was chained to him, and he was like, sweet. Captive audience, you know. This dude can't get away. And every guard that walked through that door heard this mysterious message of Jesus, of this love, of a creator of all things, this one God who would bring all things together, back together again. And day after day and shift after shift, there was story after story. Like Paul, so he couldn't leave Rome, obviously, he was imprisoned, but his words began to travel through to the barracks and the other soldiers, through to Caesar's staff, and then from the staff out to the streets, to the church, the early church, where these young believers, they had been persecuted, but they started to find their voice again, because they were like, man, if Paul can have a voice and be chained, what excuse do I have?
That's good.
And the streets started to buzz with this new boldness. So the very thing that was meant to shut Paul down was the spark that lit the church up. And here's the twist. If Paul had been free, he totally would have just kept traveling from town to town, preaching about Jesus. But in prison, slowed down, confined and restrained with all of these problems, he finds a feather and a bit of ink, and he starts to write letters to the church at Philippi about joy and suffering, to Ephesus about identity and unity and spiritual protection, to the Colossians he writes about how powerful Jesus is, to a dude called Philemon he talks about how important it is to forgive other people. And these letters, they outlive Paul, they outlive Rome, they outlive Caesar, words that we're reading tonight. Thousands of years later, along with so many other books that Paul wrote in the New Testament. So what I want you to see is enthusiasm is not restrained by your circumstances. Listen to this. He wrote this in that prison under house arrest. Up on the screen. He said, "My imprisonment has had the opposite effect of what was intended. Instead of being squelched, the message has actually prospered. The soldiers assigned to guard me have actually become curious about Christ." You can't make this stuff up, man. This is not religious spin. It's reality. Chains didn't shut him down. They opened up whole new doors. The empire thought it had him locked down under house arrest, but the empire didn't realize, man, you can lock someone down. You can chain up the messenger, but you can't chain up the message, right? And it just went everywhere. Like, throw me in a prison? I don't know about you, but I'm speaking for me. Like, I'd be like, oh, it's the end of everything. It's the end of my career. No one's going to visit me. No more snowboarding. No more boating. I may as well learn Clash of Clans or something like that. Not Paul. Paul turned a jail cell into a networking event. That's enthusiasm. That's not fake positivity. It's seeing the opportunity within the problem. Because a jail's a problem, right? Guys, in our lives, we're going to have lots and lots of problems. But these problems can become the greatest opportunities. Whatever you're facing right now is just an awesome opportunity for God to bring a miracle in. But to think like that, it takes enthusiasm. It takes the right heart attitude. It takes an adjustment in the way that we think about things, the way that you think about yourself and the way that you think about God. I look at the biggest problems I've faced in my life, the things that brought so much heartache, and that I look back and go, you know what, they brought the biggest breakthroughs because God kind of worked it out. I'll just shotgun some at you. But growing up, in fact, my mum's going to share in a few weeks, both my mum and dad were in a cult called the Exclusive Brethren. And so they were really, particularly my dad, didn't want anything to do with anything church or religious. And so that was really hard. That was a problem for God to get through to me right from the start, right? Later on, just the idea of me going to Bible college, Dad didn't like that at all. Marrying Jazz really young, that was a big problem. Dad didn't talk to me for like weeks and weeks. When I got my first house, I clocked up so much debt. It was a massive, massive problem. I remember our first church where heaps of people were coming, but we had this massive problem. Like, what were we going to do? We needed a building. We didn't have any people. Massive problem. But all of these problems had beautiful breakthroughs because of an attitude shift that I needed to have in the middle of it. Like my 13-year-old daughter, I won't say which one, was a bit of a problem at one stage and led us to do this amazing boat mission, It was so cool. All of these problems are God's way of bringing miracles in our life. And God shows us a way where there is no way. The Bible says, lean not on your own understanding, but lean on Him. Acknowledge Him in your ways and He'll direct your paths. And so believe for a miracle. So day to day, how do we let enthusiasm dictate our environment every day without being we don't want to be the annoying guy who claps at the end of every meeting. Yay! That's just cheesy. There was this dude at our old church, and when I'd ring him up, his go-to, it wasn't like, yo, hey, John here. It was like, praise the Lord. And I'm like, what? Don't be cheesy like that. I'm not talking about that kind of enthusiasm. Here's some tips up on the screen. Start your day with fuel, not fumes. Most people wake up and they'll hit their socials and they'll go, oh, the world's ending, fantastic. And then you wonder why you're feeling a little bit down at 9 a.m. in the morning. So fuel yourself. If you find yourself feeling a little bit negative, find things to get positive about. It's not that hard. Just even if you write them down, write a few things to get thankful. Oh, Josh, nothing. There's nothing in my life honestly, if you've got breath in your lungs and life in your bones, you can start with that, and then you'll find more and more things to be thankful about and start your day like that. Pray, start your day, even if it's just like a moment. It would be better if it was like 5 minutes, but if it's just a moment and the Bible says, bring your requests to God. Don't be afraid to talk to Him and go, hey, I need this and I need that, and I'm scared about this, and bring your day to God. Then believe for a miracle. I love it how, like, my kids, all my kids do this, but I love David in the morning. He reads the Bible, and then he gets up first in the morning because he's a builder and they get up kind of early. I'm of the age where I don't. And anyway, or I'm trying to. And so he'll go and make some breakfast, and then he puts on a record, and I'm still in bed. So every morning I'll wake up to a record. And it's normally Stan Getz and Astrid Gilberto, Girl from Ipanema. And so I'm in bed, Girl from Ipanema's go walking. It's such a good way to wake up. And I just feel good every time I wake up. Whatever floats your boat, you play something, and but don't run on fumes, okay? Up on the screen, infect, don't absorb. Moods, like I said, are contagious. Walk into a room full of grumpy people. If you're not careful, you will be grumpy really soon. That's why Scripture says bad company corrupts good character, by the way. So what you want to do is flip that mood. Be enthusiasm. Bring enthusiasm into your at work. Instead of like joining the Monday sucks chorus at your workplace, just kind of meet them where they're at. Don't be a dork about it, but just go, yeah, you know what, but Friday's not so far away, and hey, come to my place. We'll have a poker night on Friday. That was fun, eh? Or just go, hey, should we go out for lunch today, or oh, this thing's happening this week. Be the mood changer. Bring enthusiasm. Be the person in your workplace that actually changes things up. With your kids, if they're moaning, oh, it's boring, and they're grumpy or whatever, just change things up. I remember when my kids were little, I'd just turn into this lunatic, crazed wrestling dude, monster, and we just have massive play fights. Or if Jazz is grumpy, sometimes, dudes, this is what I do. I get naked. And I get into a cupboard and I jump out and surprise her, and then she's laughing again. Does anyone else do that? Okay. Anyway. It works, I promise you. Jazz is like, or I scream. She screams first and then laughs. With friends can gossip all the time, and gossip is contagious, and it's so negative, and it's so destructive. The Bible talks a lot about it, actually, talking behind people's back. If you've got a problem with someone, Jesus says, go to the person. If that doesn't work, it says, go get a leader in the church and then take them and try and work it out. But don't gossip behind other people's back. So if your friends are gossiping all the time, just change it up and go, hey dudes, what's something cool that's happened this week for you? And just change the mood of that conversation. Next, up on the screen, reframe the mundane. Paul said this, work from the heart for your real master. So, life has boring bits. In fact, that's an understatement. If you think life is the good reels on people's feeds, you're totally mistaken. Life is pretty much hard work and boring monotony with the odd little woohoo moment, you know? Does anyone kind of, you know what we're talking about? So if it's feeling hard and boring, you want to reframe those parts of your life, because that's life. You don't want to go through life being all negative about that. And so, I don't know, what something like doing the dishes is really boring for me, right? And so I could just be really, actually I just don't do it, so it's probably a bad example because I've got kids. But, you know, I could get all down about it, or I could go, like I know the kids do, they're like, oh, you know what, if I just smash this out, 1, the kitchen's going to look good, 2, I'll get to the skate park really quickly, or like 3, they'll get like a wooden spoon and use it as a microphone and put some Rage Against the Machine on and turn their kitchen washing experience into a mosh pit or something like that, you know? Reframe it. You're stuck in traffic. Instead of road rage, I'm preaching to myself, you know, use the time to call someone, listen to a podcast. Don't do what I do, like see how many cars you can pass safely, you know? That's not good. And I sit there and go, and the kids get really angry and they're back at tourist drivers, and I'm like, yeah, kids, yeah. I've got a real issue, so don't do that. If you're doing a soul-sucking kind of job, try and reframe it. And so that might be saying to you, saying something like, you know, this isn't just a paycheck. It's what it's doing is building some grit in me, and grit builds future. Or it might be just getting a plan and going, you know, this is soul-sucking, but I only need to do this for 1 year or 2 years, and then I can upskill, or I can do this job, or I can save up the money for this and change this around. And then suddenly, because you've reframed it, it's not so depressing anymore, because you've got a plan, you've got a purpose. You're like, I can do this for 1 year. And you start getting more excited about it. Even if your soul-sucking job is just to put food on your family's table, so you can come down and, at night and sit with some friends or some family around the dinner table. Man, that is purpose enough. That is awesome. So think about that when you're doing that soul-sucking thing. You know what? Family and community is so beautiful and so important. So that money that I'm earning is going towards that, and try and reframe the mundane things in your life. Find purpose in ordinary things. Up on the screen, comfort. Remember this, comfort is a thief. We think enthusiasm dies because life gets hard. Actually, sometimes it dies because life gets too easy. Like, comfort feels nice, but what it'll do is slowly steal away your spark. I'm really bad at this once again. Like, you know, I can just say like watching Netflix. Man, Netflix is a comfort thief, you know, like it robs away my passion, you know. If I've got too much time on my hands, it's like, just like this week, it's just been way too much Netflix, you know, and it robs you of your spark. Comfort will tell you not to have the difficult conversations, not approach people about that thing, because those things are hard, but they are the things that bring life. Having that difficult conversation with someone, or approaching or making that phone call, they are the things that are sometimes the most important things. So choosing the easy option, the comfort, is not always good. And so think about Paul. Man, what a difficult situation in a prison. But some of his most enthusiastic writings come out of a prison. So we can choose enthusiasm despite our circumstances, right? You with me? Okay, we're almost finished. Here's the cheat code. Here's the last one. Build daily habits of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is certainly not one little pep talk on a Sunday at Lighthouse. It will not work for you at all. Here's what you need to do. You've got to trust daily. You know, trust God daily. Remind those that you love daily that God's come through for them. You know, be there with other people on the journey. Walk daily with God. You know, pull them into your day. Be aware of them. And in your day, just pause and breathe and ask, hey, God, you know, what's the next step? Where do I go from here? And then listen and watch and go, Are you working over there? Go, okay, I'm going to go and be where you are, not where you're not. Because it's a walk with God, right? Worship daily. It doesn't just mean you sing, but singing is awesome. I think it's really great to I know a lot of people, particularly in our family, we seem to hum a lot all through our day. We're like, whistling and that. You know, that sort of thing is really good for your soul, singing, that kind of thing. But worship is gratitude. It's noticing the beauty on just a walk up in the mountains. It's saying thank you for all the little small things in your life. That creates gratitude and thankfulness. I know this is Christianity 101. And if you're not aware, this is Christianity 101. This daily sort of walk with God. But if you can get this happening in your world, I promise you, when life sucks things out of you, because it will, there'll be something, not just something. God will be there. You'll still be full on the inside. You'll have enthusiasm because you'll be in God. But it takes a daily thing. There's two kinds of people, dudes. Those who let their environment dictate their enthusiasm, and those who let their enthusiasm dictate their environment. What are we going to be? You know, are we going to be human lemon juice? The Karen and Darren who complains about the dog poop? Or are we going to build others up even when we're feeling imprisoned? Because enthusiasm, it's not hype. It's not faking it. It's living in God. It's living in joy, in peace. And when you live like that, people notice. You literally will brighten up a room. So, let's take some chili and some sriracha and bring it to our workplaces and our friend zones and our environments and be enthusiastic. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's us for tonight. Do stick around for some food and some drinks and say hi to people.